Ramzan begins in less than 20 days. It is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Muslims around the world mark the holy month with fasting, prayers and reflection. The fast is broken with iftar. It is an elaborate meal. There are dry fruits and dates, kebabs. Dishes vary from regions and countries. What will Gazans have for iftar this Ramzan? They don't have access to the bare necessities. There is no bread, no milk, or diapers for babies for that matter. How will the people of Gaza have a dignified Ramzan? Israel has a plan. It involves conditions that could make matters worse, in fact. How, you ask? By limiting access to Jerusalem's Al-Aqza compound. And we will get to that in just a bit. Let's just start with something that will happen in just 7 days from now. A big meeting in Moscow. Russia has invited all Palestinian groups to meet in Moscow on the 26th of February. The news of this meeting was confirmed by Mohammad Shtayyeh. He is the Palestinian Authority Prime Minister. And who all are attending the meeting? Russian officials say invites have gone out to all Palestinian representatives, including groups in other countries, including Syria and Lebanon. This, of course, also includes the groups of Gaza, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. But Hamas and the Palestinian Authority don't get along. Will they share a table? Here's what Shtayyeh has said. Russia has invited all Palestinian factions to meet in Moscow on the 26th of February. So we will see if Hamas is ready to reach an understanding with us. And then we will be willing to cooperate. Should Hamas not be ready, it will be a different story. What is on the agenda, really? Could it be the day after the war? Could it be the state of Palestine? We don't know. Netanyahu insists Israeli security forces will be a part of the arrangement that is in charge of Gaza a day after the war. The West wants Palestinian Authority to take charge. But here you have the Russian President Vladimir Putin snubbing the West and Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu by inviting Palestinian groups for a meeting in Moscow. Could Putin get the Palestinian Authority and Hamas to end their dispute is the question. And this is a meeting the West and Netanyahu would be watching closely, of course. The U.S. has sent the who's who to Israel since the start of the war. The Secretary of State Antony Blinken has made as many as 5 trips to West Asia in the last 4 months. U.S. President Joe Biden landed in Israel within days of the war, remember. The CIA chief, the FBI chief, the Biden administration has tapped every top official to try and restore the fragile peace in Israel and Palestine. 4 months on, the White House has not succeeded. If Putin manages to come up with a solution, if he manages to get Hamas and the Palestinian Authority to talk, agree on power sharing, or even come up with a joint agreement, headlines will be quick to peg the development against the shortcomings of American diplomacy. Let's be clear about that. And fingers are already pointing at Biden for not doing enough to stop the war. Over 28,500 people have been killed in Gaza, mostly women and children. And now Israel has put Rafah on a deadline. Israel wants all remaining hostages to be freed by Ramzan. And if they are not, they would be launching an offensive against Gaza. Ramzan begins on the 10th of March. Hostages, freed or not, Netanyahu plans to limit access to Al-Aqsa on Ramzan. The mosque is on Jerusalem's Temple Mount, which is the holiest place in Judaism. The Al-Aqsa is the 3rd holiest site in Islam. The area has been a flashpoint between Israeli forces and the Palestinians. Ramzan especially has been dangerous. In the past, there have been clashes between worshippers and the Israeli police during the holy month. There was a cabinet meeting in Israel this Sunday. During this meeting, Netanyahu reportedly instructed the security officials to present ministers with options to restrict access to the mosque. Options like the age criteria, also quotas for Israeli citizens who wish to pray at the Al-Aqza Mosque compound during Ramzan. The idea of restricting access was proposed by Israel's far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir. He reportedly wants Israel to only allow worshippers over the age of 70 into the Temple Mount during Ramzan. And as per Israel's Channel 12, the government is likely to expand that age group. Men over 60 and children up to the age of 10 could be allowed to enter the temple complex. In fact, Ben-Gvir also wants security forces to enter the Al-Aqza complex if worshippers raise Palestinian flags. Now, that demand has been shot down, but it has not been enough to raise concern around the worsening of the situation during Ramzan. Earlier today, Israel's War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz posted this on the platform X. I'm quoting, "The decision in principle of the State of Israel throughout the years, and this year as well, is to enable the freedom of worship during Ramzan and the Muslim prayer on the temple Mount. Considering the sensitivity around the security situation, restrictions will be put in place for security purposes alone. These restrictions have yet to be decided this evening." What about allowing aid into Gaza? That also came up during Sunday's meeting, but we don't know what the consensus was. What we do know is this is the first time Israel has given a deadline for a planned assault in Gaza. The deadline is Ramzan, and with every passing day, Israel is losing more and more friends because of the situation in Gaza. In fact, Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, who was among the first world leaders to condemn the October 7 Hamas attack, is not calling out Israel for its treatment of Gazans. Western countries like Germany also are expressing concern about Israel's planned Rafah offensive. In the UK, Labour leader Keir Starmer is calling for an immediate ceasefire, a ceasefire that lasts, a ceasefire that safeguards the lives of people on both the sides, is indeed the need of the hour. Moving on to a story now that will leave you spellbound. They say that age is just a number, and for a group of robbers in their 60s and 70s in Rome, age is not a deterrent to a life of crime. 60s and 70s. I'm talking about the granddad burglars of Italy. A squad of 6 senior citizens, their combined age rivaling the history of ancient Rome. They are now in police custody, and leading this gang is 70-year-old Italo De Witt. They call him the German. He is accompanied by his 75-year-old lookout. And this crew has made headlines with their unconventional choice of crime. Robbing post offices. You heard that right. A 68-year-old accomplice allegedly spearheaded the robberies, while a 66-year-old was tasked with replicating door keys for their targeted post offices. Adding a touch of craftsmanship, 2 masons in their early 50s helped the robbers by drilling holes into the walls. This is how the gang ran their heists. Fascinating, isn't it? Last year, the gang allegedly stole nearly 200,000 euros from a post office in the San Giovanni district. But age is not just a number, is it? The body does catch up. Eventually, one of their planned robberies did not work out when one of the gang members had problems controlling their bladder. A 66-year-old member needed surgery on his prostate, but despite their challenges, they had a good run until a failed burglary in the Don Bosco area led to their arrest on armed robbery charges. And these alleged robbers were apparently old acquaintances of the police in Rome's criminal underworld. In fact, in 1995, the leader of the group entered a bank elegantly dressed and held 15 workers hostage. He walked away with a staggering 210 million lira. As for those elderly crooks, their story adds a unique twist to Rome's criminal history, proving that age is just a number, even in the world of crime. And from Ukraine, let's now shift our focus to Pakistan, where greed, malevolence, ego, and a stolen election make us question, has Pakistan become ungovernable? You see, a week after the poll results showed a split verdict by the people, talks between two major parties in Pakistan to form a coalition government remain inconclusive. I'm talking about the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, PMLN, and the Pakistan People's Party, PPP. Now, one would think that elections would have put the country on the road to stability, but in the case of Pakistan, you see, the opposite is happening. First, the election produced a fractured mandate. That triggered one controversy after another, and then amid widespread protests over poll irregularities, a senior official in Pakistan has admitted to election rigging. He says that the general election results were unfair.
I failed to conduct the elections fairly. I'm resigning from my post. I've committed a big mistake. We managed to declare 13 loser candidates as winner.
रावलपिंडी के 13 एमएलए की सीटें जो हारी हुई लोगों को हमने जितवाया है.
That was the Rawalpindi Commissioner Liaquat Ali Chatta. In a bombshell presser, Chatta told reporters that authorities in Rawalpindi changed the results of independent candidates. Now, to be clear, he is referring to candidates backed by the former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party. The independents led the poll results with a margin of over 70,000 votes. Chatta says there was so much pressure on him that he contemplated suicide. You heard that right. He said despite the pressure on him, he decided to make a public confession. He says he takes responsibility for the wrongdoing in Rawalpindi. He also accused the Chief Election Commissioner and the Chief Justice of Pakistan for their role in the rigging, allegedly. He was arrested by the police after the statement. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pakistan has vehemently denied the allegations. Now, this changes everything. It throws further question marks over the legitimacy of the elections itself. They were held on the 8th of February, and Chatta's claims put the spotlight on Pakistan's Election Commission and the powerful military, which has been accused by many political parties of rigging the election. And why is that? So they can change the outcome to favor former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's party, the PMLN, and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's party, the PPP. The hung parliament had sent these two major parties scurrying to cobble up a majority. As I mentioned, Imran Khan's PTI won the biggest share of seats, the independents backed by the PTI, but it wasn't accepted as the winner by these two political parties. Instead, they have joined hands to run the government. It will be headed by former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. It comprises a group of 6 political parties, but talks to bridge the differences still remain inconclusive. And this only adds to the current political and economic instability in the country. It's a hard road ahead for Pakistan, to say the least. The PMLN-led coalition is already unstable, and I say that because even though the other big party, the PPP, has decided to back the coalition, it wants to keep a distance. The PPP does not want to join the cabinet. And why is that, you may ask? Well, it's because no one would like to be a part of a weak coalition government. The economy is ailing, like we've been telling you. Whoever forms the government will have to make tough decisions, and the PPP knows that. And this is why they want to stay away. Conversely, the PPP could decide to back out and pull the rug from under the coalition government's feet. The PMLN would be shattered. What future does this post-poll alliance really have then? The process of government formation is yet to begin. The assembly needs to convene. Reserve seats must be distributed based on the party seat proportions. And then the election of a speaker is expected to take place. The process is sure to be long and arduous. Meanwhile, Imran Khan's PTI is reportedly contemplating telling its candidates to align with a religious party, Majlis-e Wahdatul Muslimin. This is so that they can claim reserved seats for women and minorities, which the PTI would otherwise be ineligible for, following the poll panel's decision to revoke the PTI's political party status. But the biggest political test in Pakistan would be the country's economic management. The next government's immediate agenda includes negotiating a new, more extensive program with the International Monetary Fund. It is because of Pakistan's looming heavy debt obligations and the expiry of the standby arrangement in April. The next government will be compelled to commit to taking strict steps. The question is, will the next Prime Minister be able to fix Pakistan's problems?